and welcome to the presentation of the PMAD program. The word PMAD stands for Playing Music After Deafness, or PMAD. This program is a music rehabilitation program for musicians that have lost their hearing and wish to return to play their instrument. My name is Massimo Tonson Latour. I am the writer and solo creator of this program. Now, hopefully you watch all the other parts, all the previous parts so far. There's been an introduction. There's been the three out of 4 parts of the program which have been presented. And now we are at the last part of the program, which is called Recording Your Music. Recording your music, this is this was a huge task, particularly because I had no knowledge whatsoever to how to record myself. Over the years, I concentrate purely simply on studying, playing, and doing all that. I've always thought that this was something that really was for the professionals and not really. But anyway, I was wrong. I should have really got involved because it would have helped me a lot during this process. The bottom line was that I knew that I had to prove, that I can actually play. It was fair enough for me to put out a program and talk about all these great, results. But at the end of the day, I knew that I had to show it to the world. So I have to learn how to record. My first attempt was to start writing to different sort of organization, universities that have got courses on sound engineering and all these things. Although I only wanted to do something very basic, but the bottom line was that I couldn't do any of those. I was, required to work with a certain particular type of speakers, headphones. None of this was possible. Luckily, for me, I had this great friend of mine. We've been friends for 50 years, great musician, great teacher, and so forth, by the name of Paolo Italiano. Paolo was practically a godsend. I was able to discuss, with him what I was trying to put into place. And Paolo, look, I've only had 3 solid lessons. The rest of the work, which was tons of it, I've done all by studying online and then researching, trying to learn as much as possible. Of course, all of this during the COVID period, while we were locked up in the city of Melbourne for over a year, on and off, and plus, restrictions. So things became extremely slow and very difficult. But having said all that, I started, and we had the initial lessons of how to set up your sort of computer, the interface, and so forth, all these things. And then we started having initial discussions, so how to organize the files which I used to record. We spoke about templates, trying to make a file for every instrument that I use, every different guitar, where we put all the effects, everything into it, and it was just a question for me to sort of press play and record. But unfortunately, this did not work, and so there was a lot of changes on the way. Finally, I was able to do this work, and with one very big lesson with Paolo, we managed to do the sort of MP4, which is the video recording. This is when you use the file from the computer and the one from your video camera. You synchronize it all the work, and there's something like 30 to 40 steps which need to be done. So I was able to do an MP4. And of course show you that I can play. So far you got 26 recordings. There's almost 3 hours of playing, but trust me, there's going to be a lot more that will be put into my website. So let us go back and see first of all what I've used. Now I know that a lot of you over there are pros. A lot of you have done this work, have recorded yourself, know what to do. Use this section of the program purely simply to take advantage of some of the tips, okay, some of the things that I'm trying to put over to you, because I spend hours and hours and hours of trying to achieve, the right gain, the noiseless sort of type of situation. There are so many things involved, and it's taken days and days and days, to do it. But for you, it's all there. It's all a question to read and have a go. And naturally, you make whatever adjustments you feel that are sort of necessary. For the ones that haven't done anything about it, hey, you need a good friend like myself. You need someone that can help you with these initial stages. But as I said, the program is there. This should be of enormous advantage to you. Okay, so let us start with what I've used. I just looking at the program as I'm talking to you. We'll start first of all with the basic. What sort of computer? Apple. I use the MacBook Pro. I also use an ultra-fine sort of LG screen. The reason is that I mirror the laptop with my screen, and I did that purely simply to have the portability, which means if I have to go and see Paolo, my best friend, I can get the laptop. But having said all that, I haven't done this because I decided that this program, it's all about research and development. And after I did the study, I knew that everything had to be done by me. Okay, so this is what I use: Apple sort of Book Pro and the LG screen. I also use the Logic Pro X, which is a music recording program, which is provided by Apple. And my friend Paolo uses it. It was Logic. It made all the sense, for me to use it, and it works fine to me. It's extremely simple, very, very, very practical. Okay, and it works very well. And the other thing, look, including for beginners, because I am a beginner by all means. I'm not sitting here and telling you that I'm some sort of super sort of engineer, sound engineer. Absolutely far from that. But I've learned a lot since the early days. Now, I also use an interface. I use the Apogee Duet, known for its very pristine type of preamps. Again, Paolo uses that too. So these three units were extremely important because they are the ones that allow you to record. Okay, so past the interface, the big question was microphones. Okay, and I decided that I wasn't going to use sort of dynamic microphones. Practically, they had a lot of mid-tones, and really they're not the best. You should use condenser mics. My choice are the Neumann's TLM 103 and the 102. I use mainly the 103. It's cleaner and so forth. And you see, the TLM 102 adds a little bit of bottom. Practically, these two microphones, whichever your budget sort of allows, but they're great. They do the job. You can use others. There are others, but I trust Neumann. It's a German company. It's been making stuff for a long time. I used them in 1970 when I did my first LP. With the band I was working with, and they were I think they were called the U87, something like that. But there was nice, huge, big ones. Fantastic. So great stuff. They really are working horses in every professional recording studio. So now you have the microphone. Of course, in the program, I'll talk about position, distance. All these things are horrendously important, okay? Because they will make big difference when you set up your gains on your interface. And if the gains are too high, you get too much compression and you get too much noise from the amp, which I'll talk about it in a moment. So position of the microphones, interface, sort of gain settings, all these things are critical, not just important, they're critical. So all the information, it's in the program. When I started, as I say, to record, I learned that I have to go and select the file. From obviously that's from the Logic Pro X, I should say. You pick up a file and you start sort of working on that file. The most important thing is this: that on that file you have nothing on, Everything needs to be switched off. No effects, no things when you record. It's just simply straight sort of amplification. So your amp, your microphone, and straight signals. Anything that you want to add, you need to add later, because once it's in the recording, it can't be taken out. That's just a simple fact. But generally speaking, I only use some reverberation and nothing else, and that's very easy to apply at the end, okay? But there's got to be nothing in the file. I'll speak about this in the program as well. There was a big thing, a big problem that was happening, and that is noise. So I started to record, things were coming great, but I noticed that I didn't have enough signal. My signal was weak. That's because in the initial stages, and I'm going back to about a year and a half or so ago, I was still struggling a little bit with volume, sound, compression in this room. And then there was other things. There was things like sound dispersion. This is why I also use, as well as the microphone, is what it's called the SE reflection filter, which actually protects, contains, probably is the word, contains the sound that comes from your speaker, rather than getting the sound, dispersed in the room, and you getting the sound of the room rather than getting the sound from the amp. So there was all these problems, but the major thing was this noise. It was this noise coming from the amp. And mind you, this is a very quiet amp, the one I use. But the condenser mic are so sensitive, right? Particularly the Neumanns, although they only catches from the front and the side, not from the back. But it's very sensitive. Anything really, it just picked up. This noise was quite big. So what I was doing, I was actually normalizing. There is a process of normalization on the Logic breaks to trying to increase my input level, because my signal was low due to the low output from the amp. I couldn't take big volumes. That created major problem, because obviously the noise is increased as well, and I just couldn't have that on. As you see, there are no drums, no other instrument. This noise is there all the time, and for us with Cochlear implants and everything else, that can be horrendous. Well, a real real problem. So I had to find a solution. There was so much to read, so much to find out. Luckily for me, there was a company that I found on YouTube, and then of course on the internet, called Clavgrand. This is a company in Sweden, Stockholm. They make a lot of plugins which can be downloaded, on your Apple computer. And mind you, I should have said, before, that you can use whatever computer and whatever recording program, you want. Here, I'm just passing on what I have used, okay? And that is your choice. And if you have to start from zero, I would recommend that you use what I use, okay? But if you're a pro, then you do absolutely what you know best, because you probably know more, than me. But having said all that, as I said, I found this company called Clavgrand, and I knew that I have to EQ the system, and I had to sort of, get rid of this noise. And I found that there was this plugin called Bruce Free, which in Swedish means noise free. So I purchased it, I used it, and it was fantastic. Now it took the entire east noise away from my sort of videos, and it was really there was a very mild thing at the very beginning, but through the video it was extremely quiet, fantastic. But there was a problem. It was actually affecting the sound on my file of what I've recorded. It was taking away some of the volume, some of the dynamics, all these things. And so I contacted them, and they gave me the answer. They said, okay, well, you need to use what we call the curve presser, which is a compressor. Now, this is the most simple, easy unit, to use, I think, in the world. Practically anyone, can do it. You don't need to be some engineer or some kind. Really, so simple. With this unit, you can control the input, you can control the output, so you can increase and decrease whatever you need. Then you have a squeeze section, which actually helps you to to compress. So it's a sounding too bassy, you squeeze and you get more clarity, sort of, and dynamics. And then you have the most simple knobs of bass, treble and mids, so you can also adjust yourself on those tones and stuff like that. It is really, look, it has changed everything. It's made everything possible, because I was coming to sort of a brick wall type of situation where I just could not pass this wall. I couldn't sort of get rid of the noise. I just could not continue. I had to find a way out, and to do this practically by myself, it was extremely difficult. But those two plugins are a must-have, and that is, as I said, the Burst Free and the Compressor. Incredible difference. I also use an exciter, which is part of the Logic Pro. You have all the information, all the settings and all that. That's the only thing that I use. And then I use the actual reverb. And there I just use the basic sort of room, sort of reverb. You can really pick and choose that. You should be able, to do that by yourself. There's no point me giving you one straight things, because we all have different kind of levels of deafness and so forth. So at the end of the day, you need to adjust these things to where you feel most comfortable, okay? And also what is going to be comfortable, for people to listen to, because ultimately we make these videos for people to listen to them. Okay, now there was other things that were extremely important, and looking here, I'll just keep going. We need to understand that in order to keep the system noise free, we also need noiseless leads, and my choices are Mogami leads. I use those leads on everything, my pedal board, anywhere around the amp, microphones, speaker boxes, everything, to sort of make sure that these leads are just great. But of course, when you have all this recording equipment, when you have recording a file, you want to listen to it, right? So this is the other thing. You gotta have a very good, high quality pair of monitors, speakers monitors. I use the Neumann KH120. Trust me, I have no financial interest with Neumanns. It's just that they make such a great product. So I had others, I won't mention names, I'm not putting rubbish on companies and whatever. But for my needs, and for your needs, I highly recommend those Neumanns. They're sort of 5-inch, they beautiful, they really are natural, they don't add anything to the mix. This is the thing, this is the most important thing, because often those cheaper brands or cheaper products, the sound it's not natural. There is something added within the system, and really when you record, you want to make sure that when you do that, when you use your compressor, your compression, you do all that adjustments, you got to make sure that is correct. In saying so, I also tell you exactly what is your position when you do this mixing, because it's most important that you keep certain distance, you are in a particular spot, and all the rest of that. All these little tips, particularly for musicians that have not recorded before, okay? The experienced one, you know exactly what I'm talking about, so that's probably not for you. Now, I should have said, okay, before, I think I mentioned that I also have a dynamic microphone, which I try to use yes and no sort of type of thing, and that is is a Sennheiser MD421, which is, again, this is a classic, but I stay away from those still because I still hear too many mid-tones, so condenser mics in this setup are really, the key, okay? And they sound great through the monitors as well. It makes a big difference. If you want to use a second instrument, you can. I use the drum machine in one of the videos, in one of the MP4s. So I was reluctant, to use it, but because I like very much to just play the instrument, and having nothing with me. I am a classical guitarist, so quite used to that kind of setup. But I use it, it's fun too. And on the program you actually have the information about the drum machine that I use, that plugs straight into your interface, and away you go. and you can use it, and it's got all presets, and you can set it all up, and it's very easy. I use the Alesis SR18. It's just great standard unit, beautiful. Okay, so let me have a look. I think at this stage you have everything that you need to record, but there is one thing that is missing. And think probably we spoke about computers, interfaces, microphones, leads, speakers. It's all there. So what is missing to do an MP4? It's a video camera. This is something that I also had no clue whatsoever. I don't think, actually, my wife owns a camera. I never had any interest in this thing as well. So I purchased a Canon EOS M50. To me, they're great. Simple to use. I use just straight, default settings. It's sort of question, just press the record. I'm on manual focus. It's really, really very, very simple. And it does the job. I use a Rode Micro Pro Plus, which is the microphone that sits on top of the camera. I do not use these actual sort of microphone from the camera because the sound is not quite as good, and practically when you do the synchronization, which is the final part of making an MP4, you need to have that sounds quite clear, and I will talk to you about that in a moment and why. What else do I use beside the Canon and this microphone, the Rode microphone? I have a Manfrotto stand, which is fantastic. It's not the most expensive, does a great job. You need that as well. I use a Canon remote. Is the BRE1, which is a little push button which allows you to control your camera as you're sitting down, as I'm doing now, to press start and stop, whatever. And then the most important thing, the extremely important thing I should say, are the studio lights. Again, I use a pair of cheapy studio lights which I got on eBay. They do a great job. Why do you need studio lights? Well, you need to make sure there is plenty of light, certain type of color, something that gives you naturality, and I still have not experimented with spotlights in the dark and all this kind of thing. I try to keep it simple. It's more about the music. Okay, so going forward, what have we got? Let's have a look. We got to the last part because you got all the bits and pieces that you required, to do that, and it's all very well listed in the program. The last part is the synchronization. This was the key part of producing an MP4. So I learned how to make MP3s, but now I had an MP4. So my MP3 was all done, extremely clean, noise-free. I had my sound effect and this and that, whatever. But now it was a question to be able to synchronize the video and the sound from the camera with my Logic Pro file, which is a recorded file on the Logic Pro, and that was a little bit of fiddling thing. There are a lot of steps that need to be put into place, including creating files for storage, all sorts of stuff. So I have highlighted everything step by step. I forgot, there's about 37, 38 different sort of moves that you need to do to sort of get there. Now, you will be able to complete an MP4 pretty straightforward, really. Now, the bottom line is, yes, it would be nice, to have a time code. A time code is something that is available in the machine, in the actual sort of video camera. That time code is perfect because it would be sort of synchronized with the time code in your sort of Logic Pro X file, and so practically it would be absolutely spot on. But a time code in a machine, you're talking about equipment, video cameras that cost $6,000-7,000. Is it really necessary? I don't think so. I'm doing extremely well. You should be able to. But make sure that when you synchronize, you remember not to have any effect on your Logic Pro X. So it's as dry as possible so you can hear clearly and you can make all that synchronization. Practically, this is the program in itself. You just need to study, to work with it, to be helped. In the initial stages, you need to find a good friend like my friend Paolo Taliana, or anyone that is a pro that can help you with these basics if you have no knowledge. For you guys that have got the knowledge, I hope that you will find something interesting in this that can help you to improve, or maybe to just get it done, and it's extremely important that whether you're a pro or not, that you sort of read all this, you inform yourself about this, because remember, this is about research and development. So we finally got to the last part of this program. It's been a huge journey. How long has it taken, to put together this PMAD program? Years. And I'm talking a good part of 5 years plus. But there's been, as I said, interruptions due to some health problems, that I had, and then the COVID thing, and everything was stopped and paralyzed. Probably you couldn't do anything, and so things became extremely difficult. I could have done it probably in less time, but yeah, there's been heaps of stops along the way. So now I'm releasing all this, and I sincerely hope that this program is of great help to anyone really that is prepared to make changes to start with, because you cannot use the same old gear and go for it. Someone that is prepared to hard work, and it doesn't matter whether you're disappointed that you're not getting there fast, or that you are not getting great results at the very beginning. I did little steps. There was days where I had to go back and then one little step forward and so forth, until things became much better, because you'll find that all of a sudden things are starting to sort of come together. Your brain is really going to help you, and as you can see, the brain is not only capable to help me when I apply, but also when I record. And there's a lot of tension when you record. When you're on video camera, there are pressures, okay? So any now and then there's a little mistakes. Well, guess what? You got to cancel and start again, and you got to make sure that everything is done properly, because you are video recording, and that's practically set in concrete, right? So that's done, all right? So I hope that you have enjoyed it, and I can only wish you a good journey, good musical journey. And as I said, this presentation is taking probably a good part of 2.5 hours. It's very long. For some of you, it might be extremely long, but I have done this purely simply to give you as much information as possible before you make this commitment on going ahead, purchasing this program. But more than that, committing your time and efforts and to study and giving this a go. Remember, I am almost completely deaf, and the bottom line is that this program, all of this information, whatever, is going to the Cochlear company, which is a company I'm in contact with, because I do have a cochlear implant through my audiologist and all the rest. There was a cochlear company that actually told me that I was a candidate, for second implants and so forth. So all this information is going to the cochlear company, is going to my audiologist, is going in the hands of the pros, because I want them they know my deafness. Everything about this is real. I'm not giving you false hopes. I'm not telling you any stories or whatever. It's all here. This is why I'm making sure that it's going online. It's going all through all the people that know me, but particularly all the organizations that look after my deafness and have done the implants, and audiologists and doctors and so forth. Okay. All I can say is thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and yes, and have a great musical journey. My name is Massimo Tonson Latour. You just watched the final presentation of the PMAD program, which is called Recording Your Music. The PMAD program, or PMAD, is a music rehabilitation program for musicians that have lost their hearing and wish to return to their music. PMAD means playing music after deafness. Thank you so much and take care. Bye now.